Well, give us your name.
And my name's Rob McCord.
Well, thank you for having us here, Rob.
Sure.
He's the treasurer of Pennsylvania, and this office is so neat. I asked him if his house was as neat as this.
I have a lot of staff who help me here.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, I'm always fascinated by government officials and what they do, and I know you have some great things that the average citizen should know about. So tell us about your office.
Well, I will, and I can't resist by opening though by saying I'm a longtime Matthew Lesko fan, so that might mean I'm certifiable. And you turn this. No, but
first-time caller.
That's our first-time caller. So we served together on in an operation at something called the Congressional Institute for the Future back in the day in D.C. And you're always a great entrepreneur. It was a bipartisan thing. People getting together talking about wild ideas like that human activity might cause global climate change.
We were talking about it earlier, and you don't have to listen to this part, but is that. I think why we got along, you just want to do so many things. When you had a board, I don't know why the board always asking all these questions. You had a guy like you who was smart and everything and wanted to accomplish all this, and they would all just put roadblocks. Why you were shit. The guy wants to do something. Let him do something. We're not doing anything. So what are you doing here?
Well, the Treasurer's Office in Pennsylvania, a little more than half of the states in the United States have directly elected state treasurers. So it's a really cool gig if you can get it. Because it's a statewide office, you have standing to speak about anything that connects to the economy and economic security and investment.
Are you part of a ticket?
I'm actually a different party than the current governor. I'm part of the loyal opposition. I'm a sort of a pragmatic Democrat. I have a Wharton MBA. I helped to create a few thousand jobs in private equity. I'm very proud of that background. But I'm also a progressive, and I'm a Democrat. And so it's different because in Pennsylvania we have a Republican governor, a Republican Senate, Republican House. And the state has a 1.3 million vote Democratic majority. So I'm sort of
How'd you get all those Republicans?
Well, it's a little bit the voice of loyal opposition. Now, I ran in 2008. A lot of less affluent people only turn out to vote in presidential cycles. I see. 2010 was the gubernatorial election. That's when the state house also went Republican, et cetera. And I have a lot of friends in the Republican
Some of your best
caucus.
Friends,
Not my, I didn't say necessarily. I joke that I represent the Dwight Eisenhower wing of the Democratic Party.
That's how I feel we all are.
I don't know about all, but I do think a majority of Americans don't think the word moderate, don't think the word pragmatic, don't think the word compromise. They don't think any of those words are dirty words, and they're a little sad that there's a hijacking by the extremes.
And both parties.
Absolutely. Right. And so anyway, I was independently elected. I came out of business, ran against some machine-backed people in a Democratic primary, ran against some machine-backed
really? Wow.
it was really fun. And it's also fun because you can be a bit entrepreneurial about how you form the office. And we very much look at the job in three different ways. You're a fiscal watchdog. You're also the chief investment officer. I help to invest $100 billion a year. We've made tens of billions of dollars. But the other thing, and as a fiscal watchdog, we help to stop tens of millions of dollars of bad checks from going out. It's better to stop waste before it goes out.
Bad checks mean the government?
They're about to pay somebody who shouldn't be paid.
Oh, I see.
We do pre-transaction audits, et cetera. But the third role we wear is I'm really also CEO of a 420-person operation.
Wow.
And that operation does a couple of things. It processes, billions of dollars, $70 billion worth of transactions. But it also runs programs that are designed to increase the economic security of Pennsylvanians.
That's
by the way, we pay for ourselves several times over while doing it. So the whole the positive cash flow from unclaimed property alone it pays for Treasury 3 times over.
Honest to goodness.
Yeah, it's about a 60 to 70-year-old thing, unclaimed property.
Tell the folks about that.
Unclaimed property is arguably the first widespread national consumer protection process that was developed at the state level. And at Pennsylvania, we're certainly leading edge. We're huge. We have almost a couple $1 billion of unclaimed property. And it's very, very important for the average person watching. If they're just clicking saying, I check out Lesco.com because they give me ideas about where to find money. if they're going to listen to nothing else, they should just check out, if it's across the country, missingmoney.com.
Okay.
If they happen to be Pennsylvania residents, in addition to remembering the name McCord,
Right.
they ought to also check out PaTreasury.gov.
So PaTreasury.gov is
our website, and you can search, and it's very easy to use. And we have all kinds of people who will help, and we have very high customer satisfaction.
What's in there now? Explain how money gets.
So it's any kind of sort of abandoned property, and you abandon property without knowing you're doing it. We were talking before the camera turned on about how most of us who have any kind of government backing of our mortgages, and usually mortgages get government backing in order to be tradable, and so these large mortgage providers want you to have it, so they then want you to have a certain amount of equity in the home, but they also want you to have certain types of insurance. Sometimes you build up a property value in that insurance. You sell the house, you forget you have that value. The mailing maybe goes to your old address. You're never found. That would be an example. An escrow account that you set aside and forget to close down. A last paycheck. A lot of us have multiple jobs before we get our long-term job. We're moving around. A security deposit. A gift card.
Or something?
Yes. Apartments. A gift card.
Gift cards
Gift
too?
cards go
All the
on
gift
you.
cards?
So we have $8.6 million of unclaimed property in Pennsylvania just flowing from gift cards.
So like a Sears gift card might be in there?
Exactly.
Wow.
So first of all, from the consumer point of view, purely for looking for their money and us reuniting their money with them. There's a great national association of unclaimed property administrators, and they've set up missingmoney.com.
That's the website
which is
for all the
fee-free,
states.
Which is fee-free.
Right.
You check for the whole country and say, gee, do I happen to have any? And what I'm amazed by, I didn't do this at all until I started running for treasurer. Pretty much every year, I find some more unclaimed property in Pennsylvania.
You mean for yourself?
For myself.
Okay.
and in Pennsylvania, I give more away to charity than I collect, but meaning of my own personal assets. But it's a very interesting process. We estimate about 1 in 10 Pennsylvanians has unclaimed property. The average claim is $1,200.
The average claim is $1,200
in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And so it's not just
1 in 10 Pennsylvanians could get an average of $1,200.
Well, the average claim that's made, because a lot of people might check and go, well, it doesn't look like I have much, and they might not bother to do the claim.
Right.
And we have to check that there's no fraud. It's not like you just call up and say, trust me, I'm Matthew Lasco. Don't you like my voice? Send the check to the following P.O. box. So there's a certain process you go through, but we have worked hard to reduce the length of time. We've cut that more in half since we came into office.
And how big is that fund now?
It's just short of $2 billion.
$2 billion.
And then this is the other thing for anybody watching who's a little bit of a public policy.
And that's just Pennsylvania.
That's just Pennsylvania. It's about $33 billion, I believe.
$33 billion
as a whole. So there's $33 billion out there, about half of which is still claimable. Like a lot of times you have unclaimed property that's both unclaimed and undeliverable. Like you literally can't make out the names, or they don't.
I see.
But usually, if somebody is deceased, they have proper heirs and so forth. Yeah. So it's a process that has been significantly made easier by public entities that are out there. So for free for an American citizen, they are able to do these searches. The other point I make as a public policy nerd too is this is also positive revenue that's created without any distortion to the economy. So you say, well, gee, we're all worried about deficits. Right. We're all worried about taxes. We're all worried about public debt.
It's sitting in some bank.
Right. So the whole Pennsylvania Treasury, we transact $70 billion worth of transactions. We help to invest $100 billion a year. We do stuff that people definitely have apply a value to. All of our operations cost $33 million. We supply $115 million roughly of positive cash flow annually to the general fund of Pennsylvania through unclaimed property alone. And part of it,
how do you get it for the because it's unclaimed property, nobody's getting it, so that
right.
So there's like another $150 million extra that you guys just keep.
So
in the treasury.
part of what happens is,
and that's off the books now.
Well,
off the $2 billion.
Yeah, the way. So I want to be careful with my phrasing. But generally,
run again.
Yeah, exactly. So the way it works is. Somebody has unclaimed property. Maybe a bank has an unclosed account or whatever. After a certain number of years, 3, 4, 5 years, they're legally obligated to turn that money into the states nationally. This is the national law. because I owned so many companies coming out of private equity, I thought, gee, I didn't know about this law. I wonder what percentage of business leaders and business owners know about this law. We did actual consumer research and tested business leaders. We found 92% of business leaders didn't know of the existence of this law. So we've driven up the supply of returns, the capital being through voluntary compliance, just by alerting people that, unbeknownst to you, you're probably not in compliance with this.
I mean, I see.
So they take, sometimes it's money that they're using. Often it's just goods that they're leaving, so to speak, and they're lost and found.
I see. So instead of keeping it in their, basement, they're giving it to you.
Exactly. They give it to us. We process it. We the first of its kind continuous online auction. So unless it's a very scarce good, we auction it off on eBay. Correct?
Right.
Yeah. And
eBay, it's all over.
So you can find all these things on eBay, but in addition, the property then has a cash value, a surrender value. About half the time, people never claim that property. So you can model for about half of all the property you're collecting turns into positive revenue without the distortions that are created either by tax signals or by any kind of debt.
How long are you able to keep it?
In Pennsylvania, it's in perpetuity that they are owed it. So there's never the injustice of saying, well, if I just showed up 6 months earlier, this would have been my money. Now, some states are what they call escheat states, and those states say after 10 years, if we've had it for 10 years and you haven't claimed it, it's ours now. I don't mind that in a sense the state owes it perennially, because after 10 years, the odds of somebody finding it are vanishingly small, but I like reuniting people with their property. If it's your property and you're owed it, we should give it to you. On the other hand, if you're not going to claim it, the public in general should benefit from that endowment. And so and also, frankly, it's an increase in the amount of benefit, because the average business isn't well put together to do a continuous eBay auction, to provide internet and telephonic.
It'd be a small piece whether you have an aggregate of everybody doing it.
So it's a really nifty way that, and we go out of our way to return property, to find people both in poor neighborhoods where the money's going to get respent very quickly, and that's good for the economy as a whole. We also find a lot of entities that especially help people, first responders, entities, and entities that help poor people. And after,
what do you mean? You'll go.
So we'll look under the name of their entities proactively in Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's interesting.
So the McCord Treasury, we're trying to be innovative. We're trying to do everything we can to behave more like an entrepreneur, clever entrepreneur like you. And we ask the question every few weeks. What can we be doing that's new and different, that maybe helps people economically? And so we've done a lot of tweaking of the unclaimed property and a lot of reform of the unclaimed property process.
So that's why you say you even have personal help and things like that. If you get on the website and put your name in, what the heck am I doing? And,
that's right.
Well, that's terrific. No, I believe in that. Now, there used to be, and maybe they're not around anymore, companies, for-profit companies that used to do this for you.
Right. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because as a business person, I don't think you should illegalize intermediaries. But these entities are legally allowed to charge up to 15% of the value of what you're doing. So if it's a $1,200 claim, you're paying them $150 to do what you can do by clicking on to either PaTreasury.gov or missingmoney.org. Again, it's missingmoney.org. So people should really, this is one where a little bit of self-help is a pretty significant.
Or just the knowledge that it's there.
On the other hand, 85% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Is that the limit? They can't take more than 15%?
That's right. Legally, they can't.
But they'll probably figure out another way.
Wouldn't surprise me. Here's your application fee followed by, I don't know. I don't want to overly cast aspersions. But,
Well, what else are you doing? I see you're doing other neat stuff. I mean, for businesses and.
Sure. I mean, first of all, it'd be unfair to the Office of Treasurer not to just highlight them. Your main job is to help invest huge amounts of assets in a way that gets you the highest possible risk-adjusted return. So you run cash management accounts because a lot of this is sort of a checking book.
As a consumer, money. I don't care.
Right. As a consumer, but as a Pennsylvanian,
as a tataxpayer,
you care. You're in Maryland, you care about. I think you got a really good state treasurer in Maryland, by the way. But in Pennsylvania, the average Pennsylvanian would care because we help to return tens of millions of dollars.
Wow. Now, when you return tens of millions, that means you're making money out of the investments?
Yes, exactly.
I see. Wow.
And we use things like secured debt, high-yield debt, which had not been done before. So we did some clever financial innovations. So there was a return on my Wharton education
I was going to
for
say,
the Pennsylvanians. So that's it. I just say that really just to educate people who might in their own state say, I've never thought about the Treasurer's office. And I do think in politics there's a danger. We all will get obsessed now with the Obama re-election campaign and presidential politics, maybe some senator.
Right, that's a chunk of money.
There are a lot of offices in the United States of America. There are 50,000 elected offices.
I'm sure the financial services industry know you well.
Yes, that is true. They're not allowed to contribute, but they do know me well. But it's I would urge people who are thoughtful enough to check on your website, I would encourage them to give themselves the homework assignment of asking what other elected offices that I haven't necessarily thought much about might have a lot of importance on me. Zoning boards.
Wow.
How are they appointed? Are they elected? What are they doing in your neighborhood? Are they affecting the drinkable water, the quality of your parks, the quality of your real estate? So that's I just make the point because we're talking really big money in the Pennsylvania context. And I'm a business leader who's run Treasury as a business leader would. Increased efficiency by roughly 19% in a variety of measures.
Like the biggest thing you do then is manage that money?
Yes. And that's, in fairness, I'm just being, in part because you're an old friend, I'm being fully disclosing. So you say, well, gee, you've made what, a $40 billion difference over here and a $400 million difference over here and a $40 million. So I'm enough of a business guy that even though it doesn't necessarily glitter in the light as a consumable, but back to the consumer side. We do several things at PA, and again, they can just click onto PaTreasury.gov to find any of this. You, like I, have a lot of interest in energy issues. One of the portals into energy policy is the question, can I spend less on it? Is there a way that I can do things to my home or to my commercial real estate where I save more in the long run than I spend? The silver lining is I've reduced my carbon footprint and maybe, I'm not damaging the environment as much as I might have. But
who cares about that?
But for right now I want to make money. And you say, look, spend $3,000 now, and you're going to make it back in a year and a half, and after that, every year you're making $1,000. The average person says, hey, I think I'll make that investment. And so we help people. We have a home energy loan program.
Oh, so you have money.
Yeah, we do that. We do it through investment vehicles with significant protection for the principal. We get market rates of return. It's really a lot of fun. But from the taxpayer's point of view, it's a good return on investment. It's a good risk asset, and you also are getting people to reduce the cost of energy generally because you're reducing it. But for the consumer, it's straightforward. I'm getting a discounted loan for cash up front because it might cost you $15,000 to retrofit your house with all kinds of clever things that will pay for itself over 3 years. But it's like, where am I getting that $15,000? So we help with that. We do it in coordination with federal grants. Again, just check out the Keystone Help Program for Home Energy Loan Program. All of this is searchable through PaTreasury.gov. And then another neat area, I'm the son of a teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We really care about the wealth effects and economic security effects and the improvement to civilization from people getting the right kind of higher education. And yet, for so many people, the cost of higher education has gone through the roof. It feels increasingly unattainable for a lot of people. We work in the 529 world, so there's a tax advantaged way for middle class working people to save, even if it's a little bit, start early, it compounds.
The program I hear about, but can we explain it exactly why somebody would do that versus going to any other investment vehicle to save for college?
Sure. The first and most important reason is tax deductibility. So in the same way that you say, well, why do I have any retirement account? Why would I have an account for my kid's college? And by the way, you can use it for yourself. So somebody as clever as you might say, gee, time for me to go back to grad school, right? million. So it's a highly flexible program, and you always get the principal back, by the way, too.
But the money I put in, when I take it out, it's not taxable?
Right. As long as it's used for the appropriate purpose. For education. And also, just to correct myself slightly, when I say it's principal protected, in our program, the Guaranteed Savings Plan in Pennsylvania, again, that's searchable through PaTreasury.gov.
So in other words, I put $100 a month, I'll accumulate interest in your program. When I take it out to go to school, I don't pay any tax on the interest, and I'm covered on the principal.
Right.
So I may get screwed on the interest.
Yeah. You're not. You're covered on the interest as well, as long as you're applying it. So if you have a grandchild, or a son or daughter, or just a loved one, you can open an account in that person's name. I have employees who open accounts in their cousins' names, and their younger cousins. If that money is used for an educational purpose, which can include buying a computer for your classes, can include room and board as well as tuition, etc., that money is not taxed. So you get to take it as a tax deduction at the front end, then use it.
When you put the $100 in, you take it off your tax. You're not paying income tax on that. When you take it out, you don't pay taxes on it. And you're not paying taxes on the interest.
Exactly. Unless you, So as long as you're going to spend money on higher education, a 529 account is in the same way that a 401k account is in your interest, or a SEP IRA account. Not to get too technical, but the point is, if you're going to live long enough to retire, and you're going to use this retirement money, take advantage of the tax. Similarly, if you're going to use the money on higher education, you should have a 529 program. Then the next question is, what kind? As a rule, in most states, there is some advantage to opening it in one's own state. But there could be reasons to say, well, the advantage of opening it in my state are overcome by the advantages of looking in another state. We use Vanguard, which A, happens to be in Pennsylvania, and I'm proud that you're a Pennsylvania native. I'm a pro-PA to the end. But B, anybody upon quick inspection notices that Vanguard is not only totally trusted, it's a low-cost provider. So you don't want to necessarily in your state be using a high-cost provider with higher fees at the expense, just because you get better tax treatment in your state. And it's state taxes versus federal. All of them are federally deductible. So for any Pennsylvanian, we'd encourage you to check out the PA529.
So can I live in Maryland?
PA529.com, right?
If I live in Maryland, I could invest in education program in your PA529.com?
Yes, but what you have to check out too is the tax benefits in Maryland.
Okay, in Maryland. So
you have different taxes because you're national.
Exactly.
I would encourage people always to get some guidance if they can. Vanguard's a good source of information in my view. If you live in Pennsylvania, the simplest way to get great guidance is PA529.com. And for some states don't have any state income tax. So the only tax deductibility is the national tax. So that's a more open aperture question than if I'm concerned about my state tax. I'm also concerned about any state grant money or state rules that may apply, whether or not this money applies for scholarships and so forth. There are a lot of different questions to be
so everybody runs their program a little differently.
Yeah.
There's a microloan program I saw. Are you still doing that?
And let me just one last question for you. Is there a good site for people to check if they live in Texas or Ohio and they just want to check a web presence for 529?
Bankrate? Yeah, Bankrate.
Bankrate.com. And we got very highly rated. Our Vanguard program didn't it? In which rating service was that? Okay.
So Bankrate.com is a place to see a state listing of all these.
And again, for Pennsylvanians, check out PA529.com. And then the microloans. I mean, the idea there, and it's been a little tough, honestly, because interest rates dropped so low. But my concern as an entrepreneur was to use community organizations to make sort of microloans to entrepreneurs.
So you're being like Starbucks.
That's sort of $50,000 loans that a lot of people, especially women, were coming off of the unpaid workforce, doing the most important work we ever do in life, raising our kids, and they were stroking their credit cards, which is a very dangerous and expensive way to fund your business. We wanted a substitute for that, so we gave birth to a bunch of micro-lending initiatives.
And this is run through community
Yeah,
banks?
and there's a term of our community... CDFIs,
right.
Community Development Finance Institutions.
But I mentioned because that Starbucks giving out money for entrepreneurs, they're running it through CDFIs also. So that's why they stole your idea.
Actually, let's do a search. Let's check how that's going for them.
Because they just started. I interviewed somebody read a big article. I saw that he was. I don't remember the head of Starbucks. He wrote this article, not give any money.
Right.
And now, so he said, he's going to do something. So he's kicking in a whole bunch of money to start. And then you go into Starbucks and buy a bracelet, and that money goes into this fund.
And I mean, I'll just freeform riff while we're hanging out together here, and you can clip it for something else as if you will bother. But I do think one should always think about the highest, best return of their money. And is there a good way to contribute? And, obviously when you contribute to a losing campaign, it's heartbreaking, right? You go, shoot, maybe that was a mistake. But I for the really good-hearted people who aren't giving money to get something, I think there's a real hazard to saying, I'm going to unilaterally withdraw and leave the field. Because you can bet your bottom dollar that the people who are giving money to campaigns to get something are still in the field giving money. Yeah. So, for those of us who are a little leery of what look like special interest, custom-built public policy to favor special interests, that's there because they're there making campaign contributions. Right. So you have some good-hearted entrepreneur who's wealthy enough to give money just to get good public policy, saying, I'm sick of getting the campaign calls. I think it's intellectually flabby. And I've heard nice things about the guy, but you can tell him I said that. And if he wants to have a conversation,
that's interesting.
It's the wrong thing to do. He can have all kinds of other audits. He could be in a public policy sense supporting a move towards public financing of campaigns.
That would be good,
or a variety of things. But unilateral withdrawal is no better in political battle than it is in any other. And he's unilaterally withdrawing.
But now the money, I guess. So you're saying he's withdrawing from the political battle. So he's just by putting the money into...
By saying he can afford to do both, first of all. Right. And second, there is no charitable field you can bring up that isn't significantly shaped by public policy decisions. You want to give to your opera, you want to give to early childhood development, you want to give to clean water, you want to give to global climate change, you want to give to senior care. There is all of those, more than half of all the resources in all of those fields are generated by public policy decisions and frequently, in my view, failures. Right. And to say, well, I'm not going to have anything to do with that, even though I can afford to, because, I get too many fundraising calls. Exactly. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Billionaire. That's not that heavy a burden. And it isn't. It's the case is that the money's coming from the wrong sources. It's not the book, and I would imagine you like it, the Freakonomics, two economists. He said that the presidential elections, all federal elections combined, and this had to be 2006 maybe numbers, all of them combined amounted to less money spent than we spend on chewing gum in America every year. So this, I'm appalled. It's the way it's gathered and the way electeds are forced to be obsessed with fundraising calls that's really wrong. And it saddens me when a really good-hearted person who wants to do the right thing says the best cure is
pure. No, you're right. Campaign finance reform sounds like, and that's what I sort of feel is the bottom line of the Occupy people or something. That seems now to be talking a little more in the...
it's not an easy thing to fix. Because you're asking people to call in napalm on their own position.
It's not real easy at all, Oh, this is wonderful.
So we do a lot. It's really fun. The Treasury, because it's independently elected, we can be innovative. We've done a ton to help people with economic security in economically challenging times. We've run the office like, big-hearted but efficient business leaders. And we have a bunch of programs, including Unclaimed Property, including PA529.com, including a micro-lending program. And people, because of, word of mouth and great internet capacities, people can check out all of this via PaTreasury.gov.
And what you're saying about people saying, I don't care what you do in the government as long as you stay away from me. Yeah. Look at all the great stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's great to see you. Thanks. Have fun.